All right, we're gonna go over some basic chord shapes that you need to know as a guitarist. You just need to memorize these shapes. First things first, you ought to know your strings, E, A, D, G, B, E. They're numbered from the high string to the low string, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you need to know your musical alphabet. You need to know that we use the letters A through G, and then between each letter there is either there's another note, and you can name that a sharp or a flat depending on the context of the song. So for instance, between G and A there is this note, and that can either be called G sharp. Sharp means to raise a note up, so make it higher pitch. So G sharp, because we sharpen to G, or we flatten an A, so it can also be called an A flat. Like I said, it depends on the context of your song and the name of your key that you're in. And then between E and F and B and C, E, F, B, C, there is no sharp or flat. So you just have to memorize that. So we use the letters A through G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it starts back over with A. And you can think of it in starting on any note. So our guitar, this is an E. It's going to be tuned, or it's going to, you can start that circle of letters with the E. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and so on and so forth. So you need to understand those things. All right, so these are chords you just need to know and memorize, and we're gonna just go in alphabetical order, starting with A. So we're gonna go with A major. A lot of times I play it like that, but many people play it like this. So with your index finger, playing the 2nd fret here on the D string, your middle finger would play the 2nd fret on your G string, and your ring finger will play the 2nd fret on the B string. So that's what an A looks like. Like I said, a lot of times I play it like this because I might slide up to the bar chord, the B. If we're in the key of E, A is going to be there because A is in the key of E, but so is B. So I might play and slide up to that B, the 5 chord. And so I've got these fingers already where I want them. That's why I like it. So, but you can play it however you want. You can also, if you're just playing the power chord, or you can play it like that. You don't have to play all the notes in any of these chords. We're going to go over in a later video intervals and how that works. But a chord is at least 3 notes. And so, for instance, in this A, that's the 1, that's the 5. You'll learn about this later. I want to throw this out there. It'll stick later. So 1, 5, 1, 5, 3, or excuse me, 1 again, 3, 5. And the 3 is like the sex of the chord. Is it an outie or an innie? Is it a boy or a girl? So, and we'll go into that later. But so if I change the 3, there's that 3. That's major. That's a boy, if you will. That's how I think of it. And then that's the female. That's the girl, because we lower the 3rd. So everything's the same. Open, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, 2nd fret, open. That's your major, A or A major. If someone just says A, play an A chord, that means A major. But someone will specify if it needs to be minor. Okay, so this is your A or A major. And then your A minor, we're just taking where your pinky is, and we have our index finger there instead. You usually won't have an A and an A minor in the same song. Sometimes you will, but a lot of times most times you won't, especially modern music, pop music. So that's your A minor chord. And then also an A7 chord. We'll learn about what a 7th chord is later, but you've got, I told you, you're in your A major chord, you've got your 1, your 5, and your 3, and then versions of that. So there's your 5 again down there, and you got your 1 again here. Well, you add the 7th interval, which will be G. You can hammer on that. But anyway, that's your A7. So you got A major, you got your A minor, and you got your A7. Try playing it with different fingerings. I know you probably noticed I'm changing fingerings a lot. Sometimes I play my A like that. Sometimes I play it like that. Those are the ways I prefer. I don't have big hands, so for me that's pretty comfortable, and I just like it better. I like to have a finger per string. It's just my way. But if that's not your way, a lot of guys play it like that. I find that awkward, how my index finger is bent like that. I don't like it. It just feels uncomfortable for me, unless I'm playing a power chord. I usually just don't play it like that. But sometimes, depending on what I'm playing, if I don't want those high notes to ring out, I'll play it like that. All right, so that's A. And we have some other versions. You can play augmented chords and things like that, and diminished and things like that. But I really want to focus on major, minor, and dominant chords. A seventh chord, an A7 is also called an A dominant chord, just FYI. Because it's called a dominant seventh chord. So then we'll go to B. So B doesn't have, we've got our B7 chord. Some people, that's not, it's in your lowest position down here on the neck, but it's not really open. That's the fingering. We got it on the screen. You could also play it like this. You don't need all the notes there. You could just play. Or that's the B7. You got your B major. Again, this isn't an open chord. This is a bar chord. And we're going to go over bar chords all together later. But that's your bar chord. If you'll notice, when I was showing you earlier, the A, that's why I like to play it like that. If you're in the key of E, you're going to have an A major and a B major in the key of E. Those chords are in there. So I can slide this three-finger position. You could actually just play those notes and be playing a B major and an A major. You make a little song out of it. So that's B major, and then B minor. Again, just like we lowered the third for that A minor, we removed our pinky and played it with our index. We'll do the same thing with B. So we'll remove our pinky, but we gotta shift our fingers around to play this, to get where we would normally play it with our index finger over there. We gotta shift our middle finger, so it goes. And that's your B minor. So you got your B major, you got your B minor, and you got your B7, or B7. Then for C, we've got, that's how you'll typically play your C. So you've got your 1, 3, 5, 1, 3. And I like to throw the 5 of C, the 5 of that C chord, which is G, in the bass. It just makes it really warm sounding, as opposed to, so it just, whatever, if you've got a bass player, you might not want to do that, because the bass is, you don't want to muddy up the bass end, but if you play by yourself a lot, it's just beautiful. Then you've got, so that would be C major, Also, this is C major with a G in the bass, so you might see that written C/G. That means a C with a G in the bass. Then you've got, there's not really an open position C minor that people usually play, but you can play it like you played the B minor. And you can add that when you bar, because you're barring all this, so you're catching that high note with your index finger. A lot of times I don't play the high note though, I just leave it out and just end with that third. So that's a C minor. You could also play, or see how I'm playing pieces of it. I'm leaving out this, but I'm just playing. That's your C minor, and then C7. So you'll recognize that pattern from the B. So we move that up, and we've got that C7, the top of that C7, or I should say the bottom end of the C7, and then just like our regular C, but we've moved our pinky and we've placed it here on the 5th fret on the G string. So you need to just memorize these chords, and I know it's hard at first, and you need to have some context to play them in to get them down really good, especially once you know your major and minor chords, but the 7th chords, I just want to throw the dominant chords in there too. So C major, C minor, that's a bar chord, and then C dominant, or C7, which again, like we played our B7, we can play our C7 like that or like that. That's a bar chord version of that C7. Notice I'm laying my middle finger on my index finger so as to strengthen it and push down harder. You'll do that a lot when you're bending. See how my middle finger was by my it was by my ring finger. That's to put them together and use the strength of both of them to bend the string. So anyway, so what do we got? We're on D. I'm just doing we're not doing our like D flat, B flat, G sharp. We're not doing that. We're just doing the natural notes. So D major, and you'll notice my thumb over the top here. I'm muting that, and you can also mute the A that way. You'll have to get used to the feel of it, but you're trying to hit just these notes on the screen. But that A, just like that, I showed you the C with the G in the bass. The G is the 5 of C. Again, we're going to go over this later. I'm just throwing it out there. I know you probably don't understand now. But the A is the 5 of D. And the A works. So you don't have to mute that. And it just thickens it up. So I don't really worry about it that much. But if you just want to play just the typical D, it's just... somehow you end up with an R.E.M. song. Anyway, that's your D major. D minor, we're lowering the third, so that's our third. We got our 1, 5, 1, 3. Again, you'll understand it later. I'm just throwing it out there. But lowering the third, remember the major third is male. The minor third is kind of the female version. It's the sexing of the chord, right? You got your two main types, major and minor. And again, there's augmented and diminished, but we're not going to go into those right now. So there's your minor. So there's major, there's minor. And then we also have our D7. And if we go to A7, that sounds pretty good. That hammer on. A7 to the to just A major. I'm hammering onto the 1 there, so it takes away the 7, so it just becomes a regular A major chord. 7th chord, the dominant chord, is just a major chord where you have we're using four notes instead of 3. So we will have the 1, the 3, the 5, and now the 7 in this dominant 7th. And then there's also major 7th chords and minor 7th chords, and I didn't want to get into those. And I debated actually doing the dominant 7th, but I'm throwing them in anyway. So there's a D7, just so you know what it is. These are just meant to be memorized. You just memorize these. And I know you need context, that's why I'm kind of showing you. You might, the best thing that's gonna sound from dominant 7th chord will be the chord that's a 4th lower than it. So, which would be G in this case. And we haven't gone over G yet. But anyway, there's your D major, D minor, D7. And then we will go to E, and you've got your E major. Some people play it like that. Some people play it like this with the middle finger as the highest finger. But you've got your open E string. Obviously, it's an E major chord, so we've got our open E, the bottom. And then we have the 2nd fret on the A, the 2nd fret on the D, the 1st fret on the G, and then open on the B and E. For an E minor, you're just going to take off, you're going to lower the 3rd again. So this is that 3rd of E. You got 1, 5, 1, 3. You lower the 3rd. So it's got that minor. It's a little, it could be, you call it sad, you could call it wistful, but it's a different vibe than major. More uplifting, a little more happy, a lot more happy. And then you've got your E7 chord, which just we're taking that major and then we're adding the flat 7. And some people like to go ahead and add the flat 7. You can add it there or you can add it here. So you could go back and just play the E major like we did before, and then add it there on that 3rd fret of the B string. And that sounds a little, it's harder to hear it down there when it's low like that. Like again, I say the muddiness in the low end. So going back and forth between the E7 and the A7. And then you could try E7 to E major. And go back and forth with something like that, and that would sound good. And then you know, the blues is so if you're anyway, so that's your E major, your E minor, and your E7. And then you've got your F. So F is a toughie. It's a bar chord. This is your bar chord for a major. A major chord will be like that. So you have, and you're barring with this index finger. By the way, get lighter string gauge. You know, go down. If you're using 10s and you find it hard, go down to 9s. I encourage everybody to get an electric guitar. Typically, the strings are easier to press down than on an acoustic. If you don't have one, you don't have the money, and you do have an acoustic that you got somewhere, stick with the acoustic. It's okay. You can do it. I just want it to be as easy as possible when you're first trying to ride the bike. Use the training wheels. You can use them if you got them, but if you don't got them, you know, force yourself to do it without it. It just is, use what you have. That's best practice, right? So anyway, so we can play this F some different ways. Bar chords are usually difficult at first, but it's a lot easier to play a bar chord here, which is the same as, that's a B, by the way. So this, remember that B major chord we learned? Well, this is also a B major. But but that's a B major bar chord. And so notice these bar chords are movable. That A shape, you'll hear that with the caged. We'll go over caged later, but people talk about caged a lot. Well, an A shape chord in caged is our A. It's our A cowboy chord or open chord, and then we can move that. Remember that the B was there. Well, then a C sharp major is there. An E major is also there. We learned that E major. So an E major with a root on the A string is there. We've got notes all over the place that repeat on guitar. It's just a little more difficult to remember where they are than on piano because piano all looks the same. Anyway, so where were we at? F major. I like to play, you can play, an easier version is like this. There's your F right there, 1, 3, 5. Remember I said a chord has a 1 and a 3 and the 5. So that's your whole F chord right there. And then you can have that down there. So you'll see this bar chord that I played. I can just play the high notes from it with my hand like that. And you're playing the whole chord. You can play, that's the whole chord, that's the whole chord, that's the whole chord. And then these three, that's not the whole chord, that's 1, 5, 1. So you're missing the 3 there. But this is 5, 1, 3, 1, 3, 5, and 3, 1, or 3, 5, 1. So any of those will work. Something you could do to practice this F would be like C to F is really nice. There was a song by the Lumineers that came out years ago. So remember when I told you it was called Ho Hey? I'll get to it in a second, but I told you the C chord, instead of playing it like this, we could play it with that fifth in the bass. We also did that with, I showed you with the D and stuff like that. We could do it with the F chord, so this, but we could have it like that. So it's got the C in the bass. So you still got your, but we're playing ring, middle, index. And you can leave your index finger where it is and alternate between C and F. You just throw down that pinky and you move your middle finger down and you've got F with C in the bass. And that Ho Hey song, I've got it, a little chord tab chord chart from when I was learning that, for 15 years ago now or something. That I've been trying to do it right. I've been living the lonely life. I've been sleeping here instead. I've been sleeping in my bed. I've been sleeping in my bed. Ho! Hey! But he's switching between, back and forth between those. There's a Audioslave song that's very common. That's the 1 chord and the 5 chord in the key of C. The 1 chord and the 4 chord, in the key of C. So it's a very common thing to go back and forth between the 1 and the 4, exceedingly common, like very, very hit after hit after hit does this. And you can go there, those are kind of what I would call unbalanced, like you're mostly on the C, F, C, 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 F, F, C, 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 C. But you could balance it up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2. You could make a song sound like this. You could just make it up. It's super common. A gazillion songs use a 1/4 progression. But I was thinking. It doesn't remind me of anything. That's an Audioslave song. Doesn't remind me of anything. But he's going from E to A, which is the same type of. We've changed keys, but it's the E is the 1, and the A is the 4. And I think actually, technically, he is in A major. And he's going between the 5 and the 1. because he goes to a D major later. But anyway, point of the matter is between those chords in those positions, a 1 to a 4, is very common, and you might practice that. So again, practice your E and go to A major, and you can pick it out. You just practice picking each one, each string, whatever you can do. But you're going to have to do this all learning, and for whatever you've got to do, it's something, you're on your own. Nobody can really teach you because you have to do it. And so I'm just giving you ideas. You need that exploratory spirit, is what I call it, or an adventurous spirit, a spirit of wonder, a spirit of, wow, this is amazing, and I need to know this. You get the picture. So we did F major. Oh, the other, man, I got way off. The other F major. So you can play that version of F major. And I showed you the Lumineers song starts on C and goes to F. But if you want to start on F, if you add your pinky here, you should recognize it. She's a good girl, loves her mama, loves Jesus and America too, and I'm free falling. If we add that pinky, that becomes an F sus4, because remember 1, 3, 5. Now I've added the 4, but the 3 is covered up. So we've suspended the 3, so that's called an F sus4. You've got 1, 4, and 5, and it's kind of ambiguous. We've not revealed the sex of the chord. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl, and so, but now we know. Okay, it's boy. It was a major. So we go from F to F sus4. F sus4, F, C, and that's the whole song really. You could just gently play that. That's it. It's a cool little. What makes it cool is that syncopated rhythm. Tap, tap, poo, cha, ka, tap. It just it's a great rhythm. What a good song. Anyway, I could talk about that song a lot. So there's a way to practice that version of F. You can have that. You don't have to add that. I'm just playing what else? F minor. So the same thing. You could play, again, that was 1, 3, 5, 1. So if we lower that 3, just down, we flatten it by one note, by one half step, then we get, it's an F minor. You can also play. So it's just like our E minor chord. It's like we have all these open strings barred, and then we're pressing. That's our E minor, right? Well, if I pretend my index finger's there and I slide that up to here, now we have F minor. F sharp minor, G minor. Okay, so that's your F minor. And then your F7, you can play, I like to play with my thumb. You got your F, your 1, you got your flat 7, 3, 5, and you're muting the A string. You can also play it like, if you want to. I like it like this. And speaking of thumb over, You can play that F major. Well, you can use your thumb, and I don't have very big hands, so if I can do this, most of you can probably do this unless you're very young or you just have very small hands. But I don't have big hands, and I'm able to do it pretty good. But it's an awkward position at first, but anyway, so you can play your G major like that. I said G, your F major like that, your F. And you can play F minor, and then you've got your F7. Okay, and G, my favorite G is just a G5, and it's called a G5 because it's essentially a power chord. And a power chord, I told you a chord has 3 notes. Well, there is a designation of chord with only 2 notes, and we call it a power chord. And you will usually think of a power chord in this shape, like that. So, and so it's that same pattern wherever you move it. You can make lots of cool rock songs with these. If I turned distortion on, that would sound awesome. In fact, just something that simple. I mean, you just make up cool songs with power chords and be a rock hero. Okay. But anyway, you can also play a G5. We're repeating lots of notes here, but like that. I like that a lot. And one reason I like it a lot is because you can transition to C very easy. And you can transition to D, or that's a D sus4. And then there's your regular D major. And there's a D sus2 if you take your middle finger off. And so you got Matchbox 20 when I was younger. Rob Thomas is an amazing songwriter in my opinion. And he and his band Matchbox 20, they wrote tons of songs using, he likes those chords I think a lot too. I essentially call those the Oasis chords, which I kind of want to do a video on it because they're great for beginners. But I think there was one that was like, she says it's cold outside, she hands me my raincoat. She's always worried about things like that. She only sleeps when it's raining. She screams, and her voice says straight. She says, baby, it's them, I must be lonely. Man, that album blew my mind when it came out. To me, he's a Tom Petty, and he deserves to be there with Tom Petty. If he wrote that, I don't really know who writes what because people use ghostwriters, and it's hard to know. But I'm pretty sure he wrote that, and I think he's just an excellent songwriter if he did. That whole album, their first album, I think that was their first, but you should go listen to it. It's so good. But also other songs by them. These are songs you can learn to learn these chords, by the way. Just look up the tabs. I use Ultimate Guitar. I've used that since I was much younger. I think it's ultimate-guitar.com. But they had tons of tabs, and they're not always accurate, but that's part of the fun of it, is saying, I think this is wrong, and you kind of figure it out yourself. So, but he also had a song that was, I don't know if I've ever been really loved by a hand that's touched me, and I think the truth is gonna hurt, and I'm a little bit angry. I don't really remember the words, but it's great. I don't remember if there was Push, something about Superman, something like that. I don't remember what the other song was. Something about catch it in little yellow boxes, everyone, and you could see them when I'm done. Anyway, there was great songs on that album. Look up their first album. If you're young and you haven't heard of that, please look it up. They're so good. But anyway, so there's your G5. You can also play it like this. This is a common way. I play it like that with my ring finger down there, but it would probably be more comfortable for you to play it with your index. And the reason I do that is because transitioning from C, you've already got your ring finger and your middle finger right here. So you can go, it's a very comfortable transition. So, but also using that 5, like I showed you, that's a C chord too. It's a type of C chord. I'm not going to go into that right now, and then you've got your D, and you can go make that into a D sus4 or D sus2. That was a breakfast at Tiffany's when I was young. You say we got nothing in common, no common ground to start from. We're falling apart. And I said, what about breakfast at Tiffany's? She said, I think I remember the film. I'm not really sure if he goes to the G there. Or, anyway, if you don't know that song, learn that. I think Deep Blue Something might have been in the name of the band, but Breakfast at Tiffany's is the song. Look that up, and that's great to learn that. Versions of the D chord. That's a great song. And so it's using a D, he uses A, he uses B minor, and I think maybe in the chorus he goes, I said, what about breakfast at Tiffany's? She said, I think I remember the film. Yeah, I think he might go to the G. And I love this G. It's a G5. It doesn't muddy it up in the bass with that 3. But you can play just the 3. You can also leave your fingers down there, play that 3, whatever you want to do. But I just like that one, and you can switch back to a C like that. That's Collective Soul used that a lot. If you know, I drink the water from my hand, contagious as you think I am. Don't think about, don't scream about, turn your hand on, baby, just spit me out. Anyway, a lot of great songs using that. They had another one. All around me, I see what drinking is made. I don't know the words, but I don't need nobody. I just what's that song called? It might be called Run. I'm not really sure. But anyway, that's a really good one. Collective Soul had a lot of good songs worth learning. But anyway, so we did our G. You can also do this G, or this G, or however you want to finger the chord. Your G7, because that's a G, so we flatten, get the flat 7th. There's your major 7. There's your flat 7. So 7th chords sound a little restless. They don't sound comfortable like this, a G major, or here's your G major bar chord in that E shape. Remember, this was our E. So if we move it up to here, that's a G major, and that's our G minor. And our G majors, or our G7 chord would be, or like we did with the E, and put our pinky up there. That's kind of awkward for a beginner. So I would just say you can play it down here. You can put your 3rd down here if you want to, but you've already got your 3rd there. That B is the 3rd. So. Anyway, but that 7th is restless. It's not, because it wants to rest somewhere. So it wants to go up to the 1 kind of. You can rest on that. You can rest on G major or G5. But so that's why 7th chords, those dominant chords, are used in the blues a lot. It's got a restless feel in the blues. So anyway, so those are the basic chords you need to memorize. And then the bar chords, we went over some bar chords, but they're really simple because you just move the root. So you have your bar chords with your root on your 6th string and your root on your 5th string, your A string. So we'll just use an A up here. So remember our A, that's the same as this. So there's your A major chord, just like that's an A major chord. And then this is your A minor. Well, this is your A minor up here. And so we've just shifted the E major shape. When you learn caged later, people are going to talk about your E-shaped chord. Well, there's your E-shaped A chord. E-shaped A chord. If somebody says the E-shaped A chord, that's there. If somebody says the E-shaped G chord, that's there. Anyway. And then there's your A minor. You can use that 7. I showed you that F7 with the thumb over. You can move that up there. That's a movable shape. And then you've got, if we go down here, we can play, there's that A major chord here. Well, if we use that, again with the cage shapes, this A shape, A, that's an A chord in the A shape. So an A-shaped A chord. I know this is confusing, I'm sorry, but that's how it is. Well, this is an A-shaped D chord. Remember your D? That's our root right there is the D. It starts with the D. Well, there's our D. And so we're using that A shape that I remember I said you could slide it up to that B. You can also slide it up there to the D. And there's an E major. So that's your A-shaped E chord. And then just like your A minor shape, you can make that a D minor by flattening that 3rd. So there it's got that sadness. And those are your, oh yeah, and then I also showed you, like there's a D7. Anyway, I think that's good for today. That's your chord. I know I jumped around a lot. You'll have to forgive me. I'm trying to figure out this YouTube thing and make a balance between just writing down, hey, go over these chords, and trying to write the whole thing down and script it. That's really tough. I have a job. So I know if this is your whole job, maybe people have more time to do that. But right now, I'm trying here. So this ought to give you a window into some chords. And like I say, you just need to memorize them and be creative with them and try to string them together. So for instance, that E, if you're in the key of E, you might be E, use A, use B, use C sharp minor. These are the shapes I taught you, so you should practice them. You can use F sharp minor and G sharp minor. I'm not going to go into the diminished chord because there's also, mostly because it sounds like this. It's kind of harsh, and then it goes back to the E. See how it leads you? That diminished chord is useful to lead. It's very tense, but we're just going to focus on the 6 other. There's 7 chords in a key. We're going to focus on the 6 chords that are just major or minor. So So if you just want to use, even you could use those shapes, and you can make up tons of songs with that. Common chord progression is 6, 4, 1, 5. So C sharp minor, A, E major, B. So if you wanted to play, remember the OC, that show, the OC on TV, that was like, we've been on the run, driving in the sun, looking out for #1, California, here we come, right back where we started from. Hustlers, grab your guns, your shadow weighs a ton, driving down the 101. Man, that was a fun song. But anyway, there's your, he's playing with that C sharp, A, and the E, and that's all he's playing. And then he goes, California, here we come, E, A. So anyway, mess with those chords. Try that 2 chord. These are all in the key of E, so. So if you're in the key of G, try these chords with the C. And I showed you that 3 a.m. song by Matchbox 20. But you can play with those. You could write a song with these chords. You can write a real good song with these chords. Go down to the E minor, to the C, end up on the D right before the G major. Name of the key is G major. I think I just clipped my audio. Anyway, mess around with those. Those are the Oasis chords that I was going to make a video about. I probably still will, but you got your G, your C, D, E minor. Oh, I forgot to tell you on the D, when you're playing that D major, you can put your thumb up there. That's the 3rd of the D. So you can go G, D, E minor, C. That's very common. Anyway, this video is going to be like 8 hours long, so repeat the video, pause the video. These are meant to be paused. I'm going to try to put all these chord shapes on the screen and practice the chord shapes. I'm trying to give you, you want to practice, if you're in the key of C, you want to practice F with it. You will also want the G. The A minor. C to A minor is very common progression. 1/6 progression. When you're playing C to A minor, messing around with C and A minor, mess around with these notes on the 2nd fret. Something to play with. You can write cool melodies like that. Just some ideas. But I hope you have a great day.